2017, SecurityGuideTV.com. Chuck Harold, my special guest, Logan Harris, Spotter RF. Now there's a contest again. I picked out my favorite product.
Okay.
You're now in a close second with a tie.
Maybe I can break that tie.
I think so, because you brought me a new device.
I did bring it.
Now,
right here.
Let's talk about what Spotter RF does first for people. Then we're going to get into what the hook is to pull me into this contest, right? Tell us what you guys do.
Well, we do compact surveillance radar system. What that is think of the technology that's been used for decades now for detecting planes at long distances. We've brought that down into a miniaturized fashion, so that you can get wide area coverage and surveillance over large areas with a really small device.
Yeah,
that's what we do. So you know when the threats are coming before they get to your fence line or to your door.
And if I remember, this is I don't want to guess, but it's a big area. Tell me how big. Couple football fields? What is it?
So this one right here, this is one of our smaller models.
Right.
This can cover 40 acres.
40 acres?
40 acres with this one device.
Oh my gosh.
And give you precise GPS coordinates of what's moving, and then you can slew your cameras on target, identify, and then respond.
That's unbelievable. Now, what does the bigger one get you?
The bigger one, so there's one that's about a half size bigger than this. That can do up to 400 acres.
Unbelievable.
400 acres with 20 watts of power. So it's something that's quite revolutionary in terms of the capability of covering such a large area.
Yeah.
Takes such a small amount of power in such a small size package.
Does this come out of the military? Is that where the technology comes from?
Yes, in a sense. From the very beginning, it
I'm
was
let
kind
you
of
hold
a
that.
combination. Sure.
Right.
It's always been a combination of commercial and kind of military applications. Some of our initial customers were military.
Oh, okay.
And we still do business with the military. In fact, we do a lot of business now doing and detecting drones, which is kind of a new...
Oh my God. I had a drone here flying right in front of me doing an interview.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
So they're proliferating across the world. And unfortunately, like any technology, they can be used for good and also for bad.
Yeah. Now, when I think about this, I think about it going out on the ground, scanning the ground to a certain height, and checking for people. Do you point it up for a drone?
Yes.
And what's that kind of range?
Yeah, so we have, now we have a whole series of radar system that's customized just for drones.
Right.
And because they are small and lightweight, it is very easy just to point them up in the air.
Right.
Set them up and tune them for that type of target, because they are very small. I mean, these quadcopters like the one you had flying
it was
are
this
very
big.
little.
Right.
And for instance, with a DJI Phantom or a Mavic is smaller than the DJI Phantom, but with the DJI Phantom, we just released a new radar system we call the A3000 that has a 90-degree field of view and over 700 meters of range on one of those DJI Phantoms. And to give you a kind of a sense of how big that area is, that's 140 football fields of space.
Oh my gosh.
And we're able to track a drone and give you the precise GPS coordinates of where that drone is. So that's a very unique capability, and that's all within something that takes 20 watts and you can stick up on the side of the wall.
You're moving up fast in that race. You're getting there. Now, what I remember visually looking at this as a demonstration, and I apologize for not showing it today, but I can't walk 100 places anymore, but I was impressed by the fact that we could spot somebody walking in this like a field, let's say, or a park, wherever it is, right? And we could actually determine their height to a degree. I mean, in other words, it's not a lizard or a cat; it's a human, and maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
So what we have is we have an estimation of their size.
Right.
And that's what's called in the kind of the radar language, the radar cross section.
Okay.
So it's an estimate. It's not their true size. It's just kind of like how big or how reflective they are. So, but we can do that. That's a really good parameter, something good to know, because then that we can not alarm on small mammals like cats and things, because with something as sensitive to be able to pick up a DJI Phantom at 700, 800 meters away, we can also pick up birds.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah.
And so we have to have a way to filter between or basically say, okay, this is something of interest and something that's not. And so one of the things we do and some of the things we offer is behavioral filtering, which we call behavioral alarming. We look at the behavior because we track it over such a long distance. We know how it behaves, how fast it's moving, what direction it's moving, and we can apply these behavioral filters so that we don't alarm on birds, because we will detect them with the radar. And so we have this additional filtering And then lately we've been applying an artificial intelligence engine to the same problem, where you can train it in different situations and different sites, so that you can put even, kind of automate the learning process, so that so you don't have to have a human actually looking at it.
Right.
You can train a machine to do that same job.
Now, there's no heat sensing in this.
No.
No infrared. No noise detection per se, right?
No.
It's strictly emotion in relationship to the stagnant area.
Yes, and in a sense, well, the way all of the radar works is that you're sending off a signal, radio signal, broadcasting from an antenna, and then it hits that radio wave, hits the target.
Right.
Small portion of that energy comes back, and then we interpret that information. That information is contained on that return, and then we can measure things like range, angle, distance, or elevation, speed, direction. All those things gives a very rich information source that allows us to do very high precision and low false alarm rate detection.
Now, tell me some of the market spaces you work in, vertical markets. Military is one we talked about, but farming maybe? I don't know, big spaces, but doesn't have to be a big space.
Yeah, I mean, we have a wide range, all the way
give me
from
some ideas.
Small like parking lots. Our biggest customer base is really electrical utilities, where they need to protect the
infrastructure.
The
grid,
where there was an attack on the infrastructure, and that still happens in terms of theft. There's also a potential for a terrorism threat, a cascading failure, and we want to prevent that from happening. So you have a right size where you can have something you can put up on an existing infrastructure.
Nobody would even know what that is.
They don't know. Yeah, it looks like a Wi-Fi antenna, right? And then you're able to detect the threat far beyond the fence line, and then alarm and get the police out there, or to respond to it before they're taking shots.
Right.
So that's before shots are fired, this will detect that threat and give you time to respond.
Now, can we use an interface and tie this into, I don't know, my basic burglar alarm system, and say now it's going to dial a dispatch center. It's going to say, listen, we got an activation. It's verified, and now the police are going to roll. Can we integrate it with things like that?
Oh, absolutely. They do that all the time. In terms of integration, we've done a plug-in for Milestone. So it just the user interface pops up right in Milestone. You're going to see other of those. You can just output a contact closure in saying, okay, just a switch output. So if I've got somebody moving around in this zone. But what's really powerful is when you can automatically cue the camera onto the target and have that follow the target automatically. No matter where they walk around, you have precise information. You never lose sight of them, and that's really powerful, both beyond the fence line and inside the fence line. And so we'll set up in many situations where we're far away from the fence line, and so we can see inside the area, at the fence, as well as many hundreds of meters beyond the fence line. And that gives you full situational awareness, and you never lose sight of where that happened, where those perpetrators are. And you think about it, so what about the police that are coming, or the security guards that are coming to that facility? And what they know is that they had alarm at this place at one point in time. They don't know where they're at anymore. They've lost sight of them. They're not at the fence anymore, where you had the the sensor, where you either had a thermal camera, a fence line sensor.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
as
long as he's dangerous situation.
As long as he's on your radar, as they say, you got.
We don't lose him on the radar.
That's
because you have this wide area coverage, and you're continuously following, and that makes it a really much more safer environment for the responders, the first responders who are going out to the site, because they know where they are. And we've got some really interesting stories and videos of that happening, where they know wherever they went, they were being followed, and they were able to capture them and take them in.
What does Logan Harris worry about at night? What's the next big thing you're kind of concerned about?
Stadiums.
Good point. Black Sunday, one of my favorite books back in the day. Long time ago.
I worry about stadiums.
Yeah.
That's what I worry about. Drones are a new technology. They can be weaponized.
Right.
Whether with biological or explosive type devices. And right now the regulations are such that you cannot jam or interfere with the path of a drone.
They're pretty much free reign. It's kind of scary.
That's something that needs to change, and the federal government is working towards changing the regulations to allow a certain amount of responses. Just recently, it was released that military bases in the United States now have the authority to intercept drones over their bases now.
Well, thank goodness.
So,
but do they have a gun to do it with?
Well,
some of them don't carry guns sometimes.
So you can stop it in many different ways. In fact, one of the most effective is jamming.
Yeah, makes sense.
You can jam their GPS, you can jam their command and control. It's quite effective in most all cases. But you can't use that same technology on a stadium. It's not allowed because of federal regulations.
Yeah.
And I really hope that's going to change here shortly before something happens. And so that's what keeps me up is stadiums. I also worry about the grid and saying, what if someone, tries to do something using now a three-dimensional attack approach?
Right.
Used to be just at the fence, now it's beyond the fence line.
Right.
And now above. You got to work. It's a
going to happen.
three-dimensional problem.
It's going to happen for sure.
So, and that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to stop those from happening. That's the mission of Spot RF is prevent harm from happening. That's what we're trying to do.
Logan Harris, spotterrf.com. Now, I always forget to do this. Tell us your booth. It's right over there.
Actually, right over there.
Oh, right over there.
Yeah,
okay.
That's okay. It's 601.
6? Oh, that's a good number.
Yeah.
6 tomorrow. Spot RF. One of my favorite products. You got to see this thing in a demo. It's fantastic. Stop by and see Logan. He'll demonstrate it for you. Back in a minute here on SecurityGuideTV.com at ASIS 2017.